Hey guys, welcome friends. Today we're gonna connect to the database from our project and this gonna be exciting. Now friends, there are a couple of ways using which we can connect to the database, out of which one method is by making use of connection pools, and this is the method which we're gonna use. Now why we are making use of connection pools? The reason is pretty simple. Connection pool method is used in industry and that is recommended. Apart from that, your application will also perform better when it comes to this particular method of connection pool, though it is little complicated, but it is definitely better. When it comes to the other way, where we connect to the database directly by making use of a single connection, it is definitely slower because there is no automatic management of these connection taken care of. And if a specific user is using your connection, meantime the other user won't be able to use it and there would be some inconsistency. So don't go for that, and we would simply stick to the connection pool methodology because this is the way which is used in industry and this is the recommended way as well. So let's get started. Now when it comes to connecting to the database, we would require something known as a driver, and in other words we can also say connector. Now this connector, if we would like to download, you guys can Google for example MySQL connector jar and there would be many search results, out of which use the search result from this website mysql.com. This is the official website and the first search result is in fact the connector. And in fact, if we navigate to MySQL community downloads, even there this would be listed, but let us click on this download connector /j link and this will open this sweet and simple interface. Let me maximize this. So in here there are a couple of versions. These versions are, first one is tar archive and next one is zip archive. Both the connector are same, only the archive type has changed, and we need not to select this platform because platform independent version is good enough. The current version is 3.1.14 and let's click on download. We will go with this zip archive. In fact, let me click on it and the download will initiate. In fact, I suppose yes, it will ask us to log into the Oracle account. We won't log in. We will click on this particular link. No thanks, just start my download. The download will start and this may take a minute or two depending on your internet speed. Let me cancel this. And now in order to save some time, I have already downloaded this file. So let us minimize this window and let's navigate to this PC, and in here we have this link of downloads. Let's click on it. So here is the compressed file, MySQL connector -java 5.0.08, and in fact I have extracted this particular file and here is the folder. Here are all the files related to this connector, out of which we need this particular file, which is MySQL connector java 5.0.8, and I have in fact copied this file and pasted in here. So we have this file and let me copy this from here and let's paste it inside our Tomcat directory here. So this is the Tomcat directory. Inside this lib folder we would be pasting this jar file. In fact, I have copied this particular jar file, which is the newer version somehow. I don't remember from where I got this. Alright, so let's forget it. So we have these two files directly inside our Tomcat lib folder, and how we will be adding this into our project, this we will check in a minute. Now let's open Eclipse IDE. In here we have this fresh project, S17-project, and this is definitely a fresh project. We haven't added anything in here. First of all, let us add the jar file which we have downloaded. So I will highlight this project, right click, and there would be couple of options popped up by Eclipse, but Eclipse is again not responding. Yes, here we go. And here we have this option of build path. Let's configure the build path. And here we have this option of libraries. So we need to add the jar by clicking on this add external jars option. So let's click on it, and in here we have these options. We can use any of these two driver. Both of these drivers should work. Let's go with the latest one and let's apply it. So now this jar is available to this project, and we can definitely go ahead and for example, we can start working out. Now before proceeding further, let us understand a couple of more things. Now we gonna make use of connection pool methodology, and in order to use this methodology we need to have something known as context.xml. And before we understand context.xml, let us also get to know this particular term. This is known as JNDI. Let me show you this page, JNDI, which stands for Java Naming and Directory Interface. So this particular interface we gonna use, and how we gonna use? First of all, we would require a XML file which is named as context.xml, and this needs to be inside this meta-inf folder. Now friends, I have already added this folder in this demo project. I have checked the connectivity using this project somehow. So let me show you the context.xml file. So I will simply copy this file from here and paste it in here, and let us minimize the demo project and let us open the context.xml file. Now friends, these configuration file are like one-time usage, and I would prefer you guys to simply copy and paste this file and add your credentials and a couple of more stuff. Let me open this with text editor. All right, here we go. So here is the context.xml file. Let me give you the overview what these options are. First is resource name. Now resource name is important because this is the identifier for us, and when we will code we would require this name. So do remember this. The name is jdbc/project. What is project? Project is the name of the project, definitely. So we have kept the name as jdbc/project. Now the next thing is authentication, and we authorize the container, which is the servlet container. And next thing is type. Type is javax.sql.data source. Now in industry, whenever the term comes as data source, this is similar to, or in fact this is same as your connection pool. So connection pool and data source are one and same thing, so don't worry about it. We are making use of connection pool in here. Then the max active connection, there could be maximum 25 active connection, then max idle as 5, max wait as 10,000 milliseconds, which turns out to be 10 seconds. Then we have this username and password. If you guys remember, we have created this username in our workbench, and if you guys doesn't remember, just go ahead and check it out, or we will also try to sneak into the bench work for a minute. And finally there is this URL. Let us check the benchmark. In fact, that would be good. So here is our benchmark. Let me log in into the benchmark. Oops, what am I saying? It is not benchmark, it is workbench, so apology for that. So in this workbench, if we would like to check this URL, then it would be always jdbc:/mysql:. This is generic, and then this particular link. So this link 127.0.0.1 is IP for localhost. And if there is any confusion, you guys can check by navigating through database, manage connection, and in here you guys can check this parameter. Host is 127.0.0.1 and port is 3306, which is used in this context.xml file. Then definitely there would be slash and the name of the database. So name of the schema is project, so we have used it. And finally one additional parameter, let me open Eclipse. this additional parameter, use SSL equals false. SSL is like a certificate which may be used to authenticate your website. Don't get more into it. In this particular project, we will keep it as false. So let me save this context.xml. Now finally, we gonna add one servlet. Now whenever it comes to interacting with database, it is always good to use servlet, and this is the reason why we haven't covered the JSTL SQL tags, because that's simply not recommended. So we will be adding servlet, and the name of the servlet would be demo, and make use of the default package only. This is simply a demonstration, so we need not to worry about package. And in fact, let us clean things up. This would be better. In fact, we need not use any of these. In fact, let me quickly clean these stuff, which will make things cleaner. In fact, if we also remove this do post method, even then there won't be any issue. Now in fact, the lecture is too lengthy, I suppose, because there are plenty of stuff and plenty of download in a single lecture. So we will start coding this do get method and connect to the database server in the next lecture. And these are the steps you must take, and these things are very specific. If you miss a single thing, your database may not connect to the database. So be very specific and be very attentive when try to do all these stuff. So this is pretty important. So we gonna check more thing about database connection, and we will connect to the database in the next lecture. I hope I have made myself clear. Thank you for listening and have a nice day, guys. Hey friends, welcome back. Friends, in this lecture we would be connecting to the database and actually seeing some information which is fetched from the database. For doing so, we have already set things up, and I have also added these steps in here. So let's get started. First of all, we need to define the data source, and we gonna do it by making use of annotation. So I will use the annotation symbol at and make use of an annotation which is known as a resource, and here we go. And then we need to give the name of the resource. Name of the resource would be this particular name. So this needs to be very specific, and I will suggest you guys to copy and paste it down, because this is also case sensitive. So just copy this from here and paste the name in here. That's it. Once the annotation is set, we need to also set the data source. So in here we will type in private, then data source, and in here there are two imports available in here. So do check the JavaX SQL import. So we will do that, and the name of the data source object would be like data source and semicolon. Here we go. And now let's proceed further and initialize the connection objects. So the connection objects which would be required is firstly connection. The name of the object could be like con, and we will initialize this with null. Then we will require a yet another connection object whose name is statement, and we will give the name as stmt, and we will again initialize this with null. And finally we will require yet another one more thing which is known as result set. Alright, and we will give the name as rs, and we will also initialize this with null. Alright, now finally we need to import the equivalent packages. So we will make use of a shortcut which is Ctrl+Shift+O for organize import, and we would require these java.sql statement. Alright, so make sure that you choose appropriate and accurate imports, because if you don't, your program will not work. So these things are very specific. So we will choose java.sql statement and then java.sql connection, and here we go. Alright, now finally we need to create the SQL statement, but definitely we know that there is things that go wrong when we work with database, so we will keep everything inside a try catch block from now. So we will do this and add a catch block in here, and we will catch the generic exception. Alright, and we will print the stack trace as well. Alright, I guess everything seems good. Now before creating this SQL, we need to initialize the connection objects, and we have initialized this to null. So let initialize the connection object. It would be like con equals data source dot get connection. Alright, so this is done. Now we will create the SQL statement, and which is very simple. It would be like a string query, and we will type in select star from the name of the table was users. Alright, and now we're gonna make use of this query in a minute. Before that, we need to initialize this statement object. So we will type in stmt equals con dot create a statement. Here we go. Alright, so this statement object is again initialized. Now in order to execute this query, we can do that very easily. We will do it like this: stmt dot execute query. Here we go, execute query, and we will pass query. Alright, now this statement will return a result set. Definitely we will read the result set. Definitely we will store the result set in the result set object. So everything we need to do is there with us. The only thing left is to process the result set. So let's try to do that. So in here I will type in while rs dot next, and inside this while loop we will be printing one of the column, maybe like email. I suppose you guys remember the structure of the table. Let me show you guys once again. So here we have the SQL workbench. So here is our workbench, and we have these columns: user ID, name and email, and we need to display these values on the web page. So we would require print writer, right? So let us quickly do that. Print writer out equals response dot get writer. Here we go. And now in here we will create a temporary string variable. String email equals rs dot get string. Alright, and in here we can pass in the name of the column email. Alright, so now this email will start containing the email address, and now we will type in out dot print, and we will print definitely email. Alright, and we will also add, in fact this email needs to be without single quotes. We will also add br tag before every iteration. So we will add this. I suppose everything looks fine. Time to test the concept. Let me execute the program. Here we go. So there is some kind of error, and don't worry about it. We will check what's going wrong, and I will let you know how to fix the current issue and what was the wrong step we took. Here we go, friends. So here is the output. The issue was due to some issue in this file context.xml. There were a couple of extra spaces, and somehow for those extra spaces we were not able to connect to the database properly. Now friends, these database connectivity and all, these are very tricky when it comes to JSP and Servlet, because these are core technology and there is nothing for us which is automated. These all are like very core technology. So do try to be very cautious when you guys deal with database connectivity under JSP and Servlet. In fact, the issue which we have encountered, in order to fix the issue, because the code was correct, it took me around half an hour to rectify that what exactly is going wrong. because even the context.xml was looking good to me, but due to some extra spaces which was similar to this, it was causing the issue, and which is, I suppose, need not to be the way how things are, but this is what it is. This particular interaction with database is little tricky, so do try to be very attentive. And for example, troubleshooting these kind of issue is also very difficult, which is frustrating sometimes because you cannot see what exactly is going wrong, and even the errors doesn't help you that much, so even that is a issue. So here we have successfully read the information from the database, and this is all about today's lecture. We have successfully connected through the database, and this particular fragment of code is important in fact, and later down the line we will dig more into a couple of more things where we will try to add some information or add a row in the database, then delete or update a row in a database, maybe that. And the way is similar. This is the way how we handle the database connectivity, but definitely when it comes to deal with MVC pattern, then we make use of some specific pattern how we handle, which we're gonna check. Now friends, this particular lecture was a very important lecture, and I hope you guys have understood it. And whenever you guys, for example, deal with these kind of stuff of connecting database and all, I prefer you guys to copy and paste these kind of stuff, for example context.xml, and only replace these specific stuff, for example name and username and password and all other stuff. So this is all about today's lecture. Let me also refresh the page. Yes, this is working, and everything looks fine. I hope you guys enjoyed this lecture. Thank you for listening and have a nice day.